Right now we're going to talk about Ukraine. Representatives of the International Atomic Agency gathered in Vienna and discussed the threats posed by Iran's research in the field of nuclear weapons, as well as the Ukrainian Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant.
And now joining us to talk about Europe's largest nuclear power plant, which is in Ukraine, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, its safety and other hot topics in Ukraine, is Ukrainian MP Oleksiy Goncharenko. Hello, thanks for joining us tonight on TVP World.
Hello. I'm sorry I don't have electricity now, so it's like this.
Yes, unfortunately, a rather regular occurrence. Now, concerning the developments at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, Russia wanting to switch on what it says, one reactor, probably a bad idea. I'd like to ask you your thoughts on this, as well as your thoughts on Rafael Grossi's performance as it relates to the situation there in Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant.
I think that it's very dangerous what Russia is doing, because it's for the first time in human history, nuclear power plant, and Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is the biggest in Europe. You just need to know this. So he is involved in military activity, is occupied. It's very dangerous. And Russians are using it for nuclear blackmail, and that is very serious. I think that international community, including Mr. Grossi and others, should react much more actively on what Russia is doing there. It's very, very dangerous. We don't know how safe it is. If some catastrophe there will have awful consequences for the whole continent. So I'm very concerned about the situation there.
What's the current status with the inspectors? Have they gone home? Are they still present at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant?
I can't answer your question because we hear some that they were, but they left, as I understand. So I can't answer your question for sure.
Well, hopefully something will be done about that. But now we want to talk to you about other issues. President Zelensky, last week he visited Madrid, Brussels, Lisbon, and Stockholm. Then he went to Singapore. Now he is in Philippines, and he wants leaders of these countries and many more countries to go to Switzerland for the peace summit that is going to take place this month. We found out that Kamala Harris is going to appear at the summit. Just a couple of days ago, we were questioning if Biden is going to come. So how impactful is it going to be for U.S. Representative Vice President to be there at the summit? What's your take on that?
With all respect to Kamala Harris, but it would be much better if it will be President Biden present there. It's for sure. And unfortunately, we see that a number of countries are saying they will not take part. They will not take part on the highest level possible. That's bad, because that was a possibility to show to aggressor, to Putin, that the whole world is united against the war. That was the idea. But now it looks like we shouldn't wait too much from this summit, unfortunately.
But where is this coming from? Sorry to interrupt you, but where is this coming from? Every day we report on unity, solidarity, helping Ukraine. We hear it every single day. But when it comes to such a big event, like you said, Ukraine is not very happy with the outcome, with the representatives.
Yeah, that's the problem. And why? I think because some countries, a lot of depends from the situation on the battlefield. And now when countries sees some countries like China, I'm sure that China, they like what's happening. I'm sure that China is standing behind this axis of chaos of Russia, Iran, North Korea, and it's okay for them. So they don't see the urgent need. They benefit from this war from all points of view, because first, that's the war against the West, which they consider to be their rival too. Also, that makes Russia very dependent from China, from an economical point of view, which makes Russia to sell its oil and gas to China for absolutely very cheap prices because they don't have any other clients for this. Also, Chinese companies came to Russian market instead of Western companies which left it. So China is feeling well, unfortunately. And when they saying we want peace, it's words. But when it's coming to do something, to press Putin, they just don't want to do this.
Right. It's very ironic because I see two parallels that Ukraine and China will actually have in common, and that is territorial integrity. We all remember when Ukraine became independent, just after the breakup of the Soviet Union, the whole entire world has recognized the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of Ukraine. Likewise, in China, everybody recognizes Chinese claims to Taiwan, although they do recognize that Taiwan is an independent, self-governed island, if you will. Therefore, to me, it should be in China's interest that they support territorial integrity. And yet they have their own issue with Taiwan. Should there be a response by other maybe Western countries that maybe don't recognize the one China policy? How do you think that there should be any kind of response to that?
I think China feels and considers the West to be its rival and opponent. And in general, I think more important for China, for Chinese leadership, I would say like this, is the values about democracy or autocracy. And you know, when democratic world tries to unite, unfortunately autocracies, they also try to unite. And China is clearly autocracy. It's not democratic country. So this principle and feeling in common with people like Putin, Kim Jong-un, Iran's regime of ayatollahs, and so on, that puts China to that camp, unfortunately. Again, all of this is very unfortunate.
Now, I would like to ask you about EU and to be specific about Hungary, which is going to take EU presidency from July 1st till December 31st. What do you make of this? I mean, how is Hungary going to use their presidency, and what do you expect from this?
I hope Hungary will not use this presidency to put obstacles on Ukrainian path to European integration and also on decisions to support Ukraine. That's what I hope on. And, you know, unfortunately, Hungarian government often looks like a Trojan horse inside a free world, Trojan horse of Russians. And you remember, by the way, when Chinese leader was in Europe, the only two countries after France, which he visited, the France was clear, it was like conversation with Macron, was kind of conversation with the collective West. But then he visited Hungary and Serbia, which is very illustrative to the role which Hungary plays in Europe. So this is a threat. This is a challenge. So it's challenge not just for Ukraine. It's challenge for the whole free world and for Europe. So I hope very much that Hungary would be put in the situation when they can't use this presidency against Europe, against Ukraine, against our values.
Belgium has floated the idea of instituting Article 7 against Hungary due to the rule of law. In effect, that would strip them of voting rights within the European Union. Since there are, well, very little carrots that can be offered to Hungary, is it time to use the stick, in your opinion?
I think it's time to use all instruments to put Hungary in line with all other civilized world, or just to tell, okay, you don't want to be with civilized world, it's your choice. You want to be with Russia and China? Well, please be with them. But you can't be at the same time in Europe, receiving European support and everything, receiving NATO protection, and at the same time working on Putin or supporting China and so on. That's what I'm sure about. And by the way, I think it will be a very bad joke and for Hungarian people, because I'm sure that Hungarian people, they feel themselves European. They want to be Europe. They don't want to be Russian or Chinese satellite. I'm sure about this.
Certainly. Now, the decision was made just recently by the United States that actually Ukraine can use U.S.-supplied weapons and equipment to attack the border region's Russian territory. Are you happy with that decision? You think it's going to make a big difference in the vicinity of Kharkiv?
I'm happy with this decision, finally. I am very unhappy that it took more than 2 years to make this absolutely logical decision. If you are giving weaponry to country, the country can use it in the way they consider it the best. And Ukraine boxed in this boxing with one hand tied for years. Finally, now we have changes, but not complete. For example, we'll still can't use American long-range missiles to attack Russian territory. So I think we should, as soon as possible, completely untie Ukrainian hands. And that is important for us. And that will take from Russia one of the advantages they had all that time and which they used against Ukraine.
Well, one of the positive aspects, I believe, I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but they said that they used HIMARS on Russian territory, which was supposed to be
it's
a huge...
already confirmed. That's a good news. And Russian air defense S-300 or maybe S-400, we don't know for sure for the moment, was destroyed by it. And that was exactly this complex, which was called air defense, but in reality, Russians used it to attack Kharkiv city and surroundings of Kharkiv. And by this, they killed so many people. So finally, they received a retribution.
Oleksiy Goncharenko, Ukrainian MP, European Solidarity Party, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.